Hi everyone, welcome to week 5 of U101. Apologies for the cap, but my hair is no longer suitable for the outside world. It's gotten into like a very fluffy mess, which I'm sure that all of you can sort of feel right now. So it's just going to be a hat day today. We're going to talk about week 5 and some of the content that's in it. First thing you're going to see is observe with design. Now, we talked about this in the tutorial. There is different ways of looking at design and different levels at which you can look at it. Do you remember the photo that I put of the one that we used for sketches? So it's got the chair, it's got the plant. It is set up, the way that it's set up in that photo is that you're sort of looking at the chair, you're looking at the plant, you're looking at the interior space. But then when we had cropped it, when you had focused on something more specific, all of a sudden, you can't really tell what is or isn't an object. So you're starting to notice the textures of the material, the colors that you're using, the temperatures of the colors. You're looking at these specific things in a different way, but it's the same object, it's the same thing that you're looking at, you're just focusing on different elements. And that's what we want to start seeing. So the idea that you're observing and critiquing different things at different levels. So you can start with perhaps the shape of it, and then you can look at how it's used. Is it safety concerns? What kind of materials are they using? What kind of edges are there? So you'll start to see these things as one whole object, but then also as like very small different individual parts that make it that whole object, or that whole building, or that whole setup. One of the things that I can suggest as a little exercise, which is in no way like a sort of drain on your time, is that if you're going out for a walk, if you're going out for a drive, start looking at different things and try to critique them. So let's say you're walking down like a street, an everyday like high street. Look at what kind of brickwork has been done in the buildings. What does it look like? How is it shaped? What kind of quality does it give off? You may be able to relate it back to different archetypes. So maybe it looks more Victorian, maybe more Edwardian, maybe it looks Victorian, but Victorian made 20 years ago to look Victorian. And you can start to sort of trying to dissimulate, like, what does that mean? What makes it distinct in one or another way? So it's just being able to talk about these things and engage with them. And it's not for now about, like having those specific keywords or language around what you're trying to say, but it's more about being able to really clearly start to have opinions about different things, to start looking at different things in different ways and talking about them and saying, as we talked about in like the critique, it's more than just like, I like that. It's this works, this appeals to me because of this, and this. So having those good explanations, because that's what design is at one of its like cores, So one of the things you can also do if you're having trouble sort of doing those different levels of focus, it's a very like easy exercise that you can do sort of around the house, and you look a little foolish, but like it doesn't matter because you're at home. But take a piece of paper, fold it in half, and then just like cut it. It doesn't really cut it, like rip it, it doesn't matter. All you want at the end is a little square, and that's what's called like a pathfinder. So you take this and you sort of look around at different parts of your house, and like as an example, like this is me as a whole, but then all of a sudden, like if I do this, then there's a big focus on like my eyes and whatever they're doing. So there's this different way of like creating hierarchy, and this is just like a really good way of framing that for you. So as you're walking around the house, you like look at your sofa, and then there's a sofa right here, so that's why. You look at your sofa and then you say like, okay, well it's blue, and that's the end of like what you want to say about it. But then all of a sudden you like put the pathfinder up, and it's like, well, there's like this crease, there's this material, there's like sort of a different discoloration in like that area because maybe it's hit the sun a little bit more, and that gives you like an idea of the quality of the material and how like light fast it is, which is its ability to absorb light and not fade away. And then you can like maybe compare with the green cushion that's on there, because I don't know how to match colors right now. But then you look at it and it's got that blue and that green, and they're different textures and they're different colors, and like the light is hitting it in different ways. So then you get to like be able to start talking about it, and that's what like is the key point. Next, you're going to start drawing. This is so exciting, like officially draw in a real capacity. So this works out really well because I've been working on a project right now and there's been a lot of drawing going on. So this is an example of like the key, we talked about this, that is not how you present things. This is an example of the materials that I've been using. So pencil, there's two different weights of pencils, an H pencil and a B pencil. H is hardness, B is boldness. So the hard ones aren't going to draw as thick a line or as heavy a line, and then the bold ones are a thicker line. So you can use sort of the H for the general idea, draw the shape, and then you come in with the H to draw the like official lines. There's a Pro marker there. It's just a felt tip marker. I get a really, really, really light colored gray, only because it's super nice to like start drawing lines when you have an idea of where you want to go, but you don't necessarily know. And it doesn't really show in an official way on the paper. It sort of like fades into the background, but it's like a really great tool. You can get like a Prismacolor, Winsor Newton, like I have. They're a little bit pricey. They're like £2-3 a go. But you don't need, like I have a box of them, and do I use them? Do I not? So you don't need a million of them. You really just need like one if you want. And then a ruler is really essential. You've got one in your U101 box. And then a sharpener, like sharpeners are key, and an eraser. And then also you're going to, I think in the exercise, it talks about tracing paper. I think you have some in your U101 box, but if not, you can go and get like a roll of tracing paper. So it's just like this, and it lasts forever. I think I had this one my entire bachelor's degree, and I'm like still nowhere near done. And it costs maybe £2. Like they cost nothing, but it's super useful when you want to like trace. When you draw something, then you want to maybe transfer it over, or there's some things that you like, some things you don't. You can't really see the lines anymore because you put too many of them in. So this just goes on top. You trace around, then you transfer it over. Well, you draw on the other side, then you put it back on, transfer it over, and then there you go. You've got it. New fresh lines on a new fresh drawing. One other thing, you're going to be, as I said, tracing your hand. You're going to start seeing different things as you're tracing it, different geometries. I think that's the key point. If you want to like take this a bit further, you can try to draw the hand yourself. So I'm just going to give you a few tips on sort of what to look at. So I'm going to take a photo of it, and then like a photo of my hand, and then we can talk about it because you'll have a version of it. So I'm going to take, oh, no, that's backlit. So I'm going to take that photo. Great. So I'm just putting it on there. Now, some of the things that you can notice is, let's say my major finger, my middle finger, is the tip of it is lining up with the top knuckle of my ring finger. So that's like a line, right? And then the bottom knuckle of my index finger is lining up with the top of my thumb. That's another reference. So it's all about creating these different geometrical references so that it's very convincing, and that you aren't imagining what a hand looks like, but you're actually really just saying exactly what that hand looks like. So there's all these different sort of lines that you can see. Look at, what the shape is doing, what the shape is, but also I think we had talked about before, the negative space, so the space that things aren't occupying. So instead of looking at, tracing from the inside out, trace from the outside in of like, what are the shapes, that little V shape between my index finger and my middle finger is a very different V shape to the one between my middle finger and my ring finger, and then is also a different shape to the one between my ring finger and my pinky. One of the tips that I can suggest is that have good lighting so that the contrast is really good, so you can really see those differences. But it's all about creating that geometry. And remember that a hand, like the way that it's set up is sort of like, the basics is this sort of square box, and then you've got this one poking out of it, and then you've got these four coming out. But these four fingers don't actually just stick out, straight. They come from the center. So they're all coming in from this like point on your wrist. So remember that when you're drawing them outwards. Have fun with it. That's the extent of what I want to say. If you want to draw, that's some of the tips. But if not, trace them, and then you'll start noticing these different sort of geographies in your hand, sort of on the page, as you're going along with the course. Then in another point, they talk about, I think in the last part of this week, the design processes. There's talk about failure. As much as like I agree with like failure is an opportunity to learn, like yes, I'm also that kind of person who's like, I don't want to fail. like I don't want to fail in the first place. Like I want to be able to like get it good the first time. And really like failure is sort of a benchmark that you set for yourself. If you wanted to get a 90 and you got an 80, or you wanted to get like a really high grade and you got something lower, then like that can feel like a failure. But it's just about not looking at like, oh well, I didn't do well. Just look at how you can make it that much further. How you can get those extra points next time. How you can sort of like enhance whatever is happening. And like take what you've got, take where you are, and then make it better. There was this one professor that we had in all throughout our design schooling, and you would go to her and you'd be like, okay, I have this idea, it looks great, and you show all the sketches, you show the prototype, you're like, it looks amazing, like I think I'm a week ahead, this is going great, and she'd look at it and she'd just stand there and she'd go, très bien, recommence, which translates essentially to very good, start again. And the idea behind that was that if you did it once really well, then the chances are, if you have to do it again, you're going to do it better. And that's where, I'm preaching it every single week, but like quantity over quality for now. Just like you make that one shape and then you make it again. You trace your hand and then you trace it again. And you draw your hand, you draw it again. You look at the sofa and you critique it, and then you critique it again, because there's always going to be something that makes it a little bit further than the last time you did it. And that's sort of like what you want to start really embedding in your mind. I also wanted to ask, before we go, we've been doing this week 5 now, so it's been 5 weeks of it. Quick math. I want to know from you if there's anything that you want to see, if there's any extras that you want me to talk about, if there's any things that are missing or any issues that you're feeling that like maybe these videos could resolve. So let me know either in the like comments on this YouTube video, or send me an email, put it in the tutor form. Like there's a million different venues to do it. Just send me something if you feel like there's something you want to see. If you still like it, that's great. You can also tell me that it's going well. That's great. But yeah, so I hope that this week goes well. I hope that the week after goes well. You'll still see a video of me anyways, sorry. But enjoy the week, enjoy the weather, because it's still quite nice, and enjoy the work. Right, see you.